are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank y'all for doing this.
Our pleasure.
Welcome. Our pleasure, yep.
Okay, perfect. Let me see. Okay, cool. We're going to go ahead and get started then. I know people are hopping on still, but we are recording and ready to roll. Okay, cool. So we got both offices, Richmond office and consultant's office, top agents on today. And one, they love to hear from you guys just anytime. And two, I thought with everything that's going on right now, talking about wealth building would be at the top of everyone's list. Just so much, so many things changing and stuff. So I do know that I tend to be naive and think everybody knows y'all's story. However, we have some newer people who don't know it. So I thought if it would be okay with you, maybe you guys could start with just kind of telling a little bit about your story. And for those of you who don't know, Linda and Jim are the regional owners of the Ohio Valley region, and have been with KW since
1993.
93, yeah. So I'm going to let them tell their background and their story, and then I'm going to get into some questions. And in the meantime, if you guys have questions, type them in the chat, and then I'm going to field the chat questions as we go through also.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Right.
Cool.
So actually, Dana, it was kind of something very similar to COVID that really launched us into being passionate about, well, it launched us into two things. One, into real estate sales, and then number two, into wealth building. Because in a situation like COVID or a shift or a downturn or an economic crash or anything like that, when there's a gradually and a suddenly, it really kind of wakes you up. And so the blessing we're all going to get from COVID is it's going to wake us up, and it's going to make us realize what freedoms we don't currently have that we wished we had, or the regrets of what we wished we had worked on, our health and our wealth before COVID, right? And so it was that kind of situation. It was an economic crash in Texas that actually put us into a situation where we had to sell a business for $600,000 less than what we owed against it.
This was in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, so literally we woke up one day and we were $600,000 in debt on a business we didn't own anymore. And so Jimmy had kind of come, I'm 23. I don't even know what the word economy means, much less whether it's a good one or a bad one, but I knew he was stressing over something. And so once he would let me know what it was, and he would say to me, I need you to go to work and help me. And when I thought about what I could actually do, I'd never made more than about minimum wage, other than waitressing and bartending at his nightclubs. Jimmy was in the restaurant and nightclub business. And so I looked at him and said, I don't know why. I said, 38 years of marriage, I don't ever usually look at him and say, what do you think I should do? I'll just do what you think I should do today. I usually do whatever I think I should do. But for whatever reason, I was so out of my element in that kind of situation. I actually looked to him and said, I'm a hard worker. What do you think I could do to help you? And it was his suggestion from a mentor, someone, a Pee Wee football coach that had said, if you want to make a lot of money, real estate's the way to do it. Now, we laugh today because I don't think that developer out of Dallas, Texas, which is what he was, to Jimmy, he was just his Pee Wee football coach, but he was a developer and a big time real estate person in Dallas. I don't think he meant, go get a wife, get her to selling houses, you guys will be rich forever. I doubt that's what he meant. He probably meant someday you need to buy real estate or invest in real estate or something like that. And so for whatever reason, the message got messed up, and Jimmy suggested I start selling real estate, and I did not know one single realtor. I didn't know what you do in real estate. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know if I could do it. But Jimmy omitted to tell me that he had forgotten to tell me that he had actually been licensed twice already.
70s and the 80s.
And he hated it both times because he said they would give you a desk, give you a phone, and say, good luck, you're on your own. And he hated that. And he said it felt like a job. Now, he was an entrepreneur, so he didn't want those.
Hold on, Jimmy. Hold on. Wait. Somehow y'all got muted. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, you're good.
Okay. Since my senior year in college, I never had a real job. I was always had businesses of my own and stuff. And so that was, every time I went to work for a real estate company, it felt like a job. It felt like, they just put you into an office and you're working for a broker, and It just felt like a 9 to 5 to me, and I just didn't like that structure.
So got into real estate. I only made $3,000 gross. Jimmy said, Linda, this is super gross because I'm paying 15 for you to make 3. This is not the help I needed, But, back then there was no training. Nobody had, Keller Williams training has kind of spoilt us all. There's training all the time. If you want to learn how to do something, you can either go find the people that have been successful at it, or you can drop into a class and get that information. And we didn't have that back then. Literally, you got about a week. If you were lucky, you got about a week training. I didn't even get that on my first broker I picked. I didn't even get a week training. I'd literally have to get up at 5 and go to the gym and run on the treadmill next to her to say, how do you get a buyer? And how do you get a seller? And what do I say? And
how do you get a key?
Yeah. How do you get keys? But I love all of that because, it's our experiences in life, good and bad, that set us up ready for opportunities and ready to see them and ready to take advantage. And I think, sometimes we miss opportunities because we haven't experienced enough. And so we don't know a good opportunity when we have one. And, my greatest fear is that we're going to have a lot of people go through this company and they have such opportunity to not only build great careers with the training and stuff that they get, but they also have opportunity to build wealth. And I call it walking over dollars to get to dimes. You walk over dollars every day. That's wealth building to get to those commissions because they're so big and we need them to live and stuff like that. So going through that, it was very tough times. I always say it was never a marriage enriching moment when you're that broke. You don't, come home and say, hi, sweetheart, how was your day? You fight about money. And so we eventually just realized that it'd be better if he just got into the business with me. I actually went to a Mike Ferry seminar someone paid for, started to learn that there was people out there that had the answers. And if I could just get to those people and figure out what they did and then just go do whatever they told me, we would be okay. And so I drug him to the seminars with me. And I think after that, he saw a different picture of real estate sales. But the pain of being that broke and made us start studying wealthy people. And that really is kind of what launched us.
Yeah, we really just started reading every book that we could find on wealthy people. And we always talk about, coming from being what I pictured as success as an entrepreneur, I always had cash in my pocket. I always had money, and I could always do things that I wanted to do then, but I had zero wealth. And whenever we went totally broke, all the cash flow went away. Everything went away financially. I went from driving a red Cadillac down to a Pinto with a white Pinto with a dent in the side of it. And the only reason I drove it is because I couldn't get anything financed at the time. So I paid $900 for that vehicle and drove it for a year and a half. And so, it was a radical change in our life. But looking back on that today, that was the worst thing that ever happened to us from a business perspective. But looking at that today, that worst thing was the best thing that happened to us because that was a wake-up call for us, and it got us on the path to building wealth and stuff. And we started our journey while we were still $600,000 in debt. Now, back in that time, the banks, they would settle money with you. It was in the late 80s and early 90s. You could go in, if you had a couple $100,000 loan, they may settle that loan for, $125,000 or $100,000 just to get it off their books. Because a lot of people back in that time period were filing bankruptcies and stuff. And Linda and I were blessed enough to think that we owed the money and we were going to try to pay it somehow. But they forgave some of the debts, and we were able to get $600,000 paid off in 4.5 years. And so,
and the book that really was impactful for us, because we woke up and said, okay, life's going to happen. We didn't say COVID's going to happen, but COVID's going to happen. Economies are going to crash. Market's going to go up. Market's going to go down. Life's going to give us some life's unexpected. How do we become the people who are in a better position when those things happen? And so that led us to Robert Kiyosaki's book, Cash Flow Quadrant. And in there, we realized, I don't know about you guys, but if things are too complicated, I don't take action. And so there's only 3 ways to build wealth is what he says in his book. And so we realized, he says, you got to get your money coming in from the right side of the quadrant, which is through real estate investing, stocks, or businesses. And 95% of the world is going to get their money coming from the left side of the quadrant, which is going to be a job or self-employed.
Which is earned income.
And at that point, we were self-employed. So we said, okay, we got it. Over the next ever how many years until something bad happens again, we got to get as much of our money coming in from that right side as we possibly can. And by the way, right now we have none, zero coming from that right side.
And
so can we pause right there? Because I think so, because I see tons of people on the call that I know some of them haven't started yet, Linda, like you just said, and some of them already have. So I kind of would love for y'all to maybe talk for a minute about the ones who haven't started yet. Like, what does that first step look like? And Jimmy, I think you were going to say something too.
I tell you what, Dana, how many of you guys out in the audience, whenever you make a big sale and you have a big pocket full of money, feel like you're on top of the world? Well, I felt like that many, many times back right before I went broke. And so I had plenty of money in my pockets, but I had no wealth and I had no business strategy. I didn't understand money at all. And so the first place that you need to go to and to look at is understanding how money works. Jim Rohn and stuff, he's got some neat sayings. What did he say about the money deal? Rich people,
I have no idea.
There's 24 hours in the day.
Oh yeah. Rich people have 24 hours in the day and so do poor people. You just got to figure out what those rich people are doing with their 24.
And that was his famous statement. Yeah. And that really struck me hard. And so at that time, that's when we really started reading all the books. It was Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, Wealthy Barber, Millionaire Next Door.
So that would be a first step, is start reading the books. And then the second thing is come up with a number that's your freedom number, because and we have a worksheet. If you'll text 33444, the word freedom number all together is one word, you can actually get our worksheet for that. But, come up with a number, because I truly believe this. I believe when you truly decide, the good Lord puts everything in your destiny to get what you need. But I don't think we can see it until we make that decision. I think they're out there. I think other people are seeing it because they've decided they're going to do these things. So once you decide, come up with a number. Our first freedom number was $250,000. And for whatever reason, we thought that'd be enough money to live the lifestyle we wanted if that was coming in passively. And then at the time, because we were not with KW at the time, profit share would not be an option right then. We kind of had a little sour taste about businesses. We picked real estate investing. And because we set that number, all of a sudden a property came up. And when that property came up, we could have immediately, matter of fact, Jim said, Linda, how are we going to do this? We have no money and we have no credit. We can't go buy this property you've just found. And so again, I believe once you've made that commitment, you will get the answers and the tools you need to accomplish it. I woke up the next morning and I said, I'm going to go to my builder, Lou Kraft, and he's going to partner with us on this. I really believe he will. And sure enough, he said yes. So our first 3 deals, while we're still climbing out of $600,000 in debt, because we decided and because we came up with a number and because we found a property, we just pulled the trigger. Were we scared? Absolutely. Anything great in life is going to have fear around it. Anything that's a big commitment is going to have fear around it.
And our first deal was a flip. It wasn't a hold.
Right.
And so we needed cash to go do anything else. And so taking action and getting in the game, just getting started, that's the biggest step. And the biggest things that I really learned out of all the books that we read and everything, up until this time, I thought money was only one-dimensional. And what I mean by that is you go out there and you work, you have expenses to live every month, and then hopefully at the end of the day, you have a little bit left over and you either save it or you spend it, one of the two. And so once I realized that money was two-dimensional, meaning that once you had that money left over and you invested that money in an asset that worked for you while you continually to work at what you do, that's the compounding factor that makes investing really work.
And our first, after Lou was our partner, we had to figure out how we're going to keep getting enough money to buy these properties. Because when we did our freedom number, we worked it backwards on how many rental houses we would need to accomplish that $250,000, and it wound up being about 20 properties. And so we made the decision that we'd give ourselves 5 years to go buy all those 20 properties. And so then we had to figure out, well, where are we going to get the money from? Because like Jimmy likes to say, we had this disease called the DMD disease, which is disappearing money disease.
I was hoping you were going to talk about that.
Yeah, if it touched our hands, poof.
It was gone. So what we did is we had our title company take out 15% of every commission check that we had. Because I'd been reading in these books about this automatic savings plan, automatic. And they kept saying, well, if you'll just take the money out off the top, you'll never miss it, which I never believed them. I thought, oh, I will definitely miss that money. However, you don't miss it. So we had our title company take out 15% of every commission.
And put it into a money market account.
Put it into our A.G. Edwards account. And when we had enough money to buy down payment on a property, we'd go buy another property.
So we get 25, 35, or $40,000 saved up in that account. We used the same formula that's in the whole book and went down and bought a rental property that would cash flow on a 15-year note.
So we kind of kept doing that, and then we changed our strategy to say, well, look, let's don't flip these properties. Let's hold them so that someday when we don't want to work anymore, or we can't work anymore, we just don't want to do it because we have to. We want to do it because we want to. Let's have those houses free and clear, and that'll be kind of our exit strategy if we need one. And, you know, Dana, I think part of the issue that realtors have, and you and I see this all the time when we're talking to people, we'll get that call and you never know what year it's going to happen, but there is a year that you will hit a ceiling in this real estate business and you won't have the passion to do it, or it will be costing you something that is way more valuable than you want to give up. I get the calls all the time. You get the calls. And so what I'd love for people to do is to create that freedom in advance so that you do have options and you do have choices. I mean, I get calls from people who've been in the business 30 years and they just don't have any options because they've done nothing to prepare for exit strategies from real estate. They have no money. They can't stop selling. Their families, you know, grandkids are growing up without them. Their husbands are ready to move to Florida and, you know, they're not. I mean, it's really a mess.
The biggest enemy of wealth building in today's society is instant gratification.
Yeah.
And so living in the moment, buying that new car, moving up to that new house, having poor spending habits and stuff, instead of investing your money in an appreciating asset that can throw off you a residual stream of income. That's the biggest thing I see people not do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you know, long-term wealth building is not a sexy kind of topic. You can make it fun. I mean, I would make a game out of it and make it fun. But the truth is you have to visit it a lot. You have to tie into what kind of freedoms it's going to give you. Let the pain of COVID drive you because we will take more action out of fear of loss of something. And I'm actually pretty driven by that. You know, my fear was to grow old and have someone else have to take care of me. Jimmy and I both have had to bury our families, our parents. We've had to take care of siblings who didn't prepare for as long as they were going to live. Those kind of things are going to come up. Those are life's unexpecteds. And there's just such great joy in to be able to step into that void and that gap. But you got to tap into what emotionally is going to make you work on something today that isn't going to pay off for a good long time.
And one thing that we found that was a common denominator with wealthy people, remember I said money's two-dimensional. One side is your earned income and the other side is your passive income. Most of the people that are really wealthy, 95% of their income comes off the passive side. So it means they've accumulated enough appreciating assets or stocks or whatever they're using as their investment vehicle to throw off enough income that replaces their earned income. So someday they can stop or not have to work, only work if they want to work, and their income is thrown off through assets, not through them physically having to go do things.
Yeah. You know, and then, you know, we said real estate, stocks, and businesses. So, you know, the pain of our businesses kind of went away. We eventually built a real estate team. Gary Keller coached us on how to make that a standalone business that could actually function without me in it.
It's been paying us money since 1997.
Yeah, been paying us money
Without
since 1997. We haven't been doing the job. We've been able to go out and build other opportunities while that was being taken care of by somebody. So, you know, sometimes, Dana, I think we read the MREA book. We hear about profit share. We hear about all these things, but we don't really understand or grasp the depth of how deep and how amazing that concept is.
Yep.
If you take the MREA book, if you want to make the most money out of your real estate business, you've got a model and system for doing that. And by the way, if you want to have a business that you can step away from, MREA is the model for that too. And so I think we just kind of take this stuff for granted instead of realizing how deep a concept and how much money Gary's concepts that he gives us can actually make you if you just keep at them long enough and you follow them. The same thing with profit share. When we first joined KW, there was no way we were going to listen to anything about profit share.
4 years.
I thought it was a hoax. I thought 50 more houses and all these investment properties was all we needed to do.
In 1997, we joined in 93. In 1997, we kind of looked at our profit sharing. And that year together, Linda and I earned a little bit under $2,000 for the whole year. Thought, wow, that's not even a commission. One commission would pay that $2,000. But it was the way the money flowed to us and the training and learning that we learned about passive income. That's how passive income flows. This is not on the earned income side. This is on the passive side without us having to work for it. And so when we look at that, that was a substantial amount of money. We'd had to have a lot of money in the bank to earn that $2,000 interest that year. And so when we look at it from that perspective, we went back and we built a little business plan around profit share.
Well, profit share is one of those things. If you don't have any money to do real estate investing, you could always do the profit share first. And then as you build money, you could use that money to go into your investment portfolio.
That's really leveraging money.
So the profit share, I really thought it was kind of one of those things I didn't really want to learn about until I had a really bad transaction one day. And I said, okay, somebody tell me about profit share, because I think I went that day and pulled my resume out and saw that I could only make minimum wage and thought, well, crap, can't quit this day job. So what else can I do? How can I build wealth faster? And so it made us look at profit share as a business. And then Gary challenged us to go.
We were in a mastermind with Gary, and
we were talking about multiple streams of income, and we went around the room, and when he got to us, there was nothing left. So he said, Linda, you've been wanting to learn about profit share. Why don't you go do profit share as a standalone business, pro forma? And so that's what I did. I flew to Washington, talked to the guy that knew the most about it. I said, I'll teach your agents how to build a team, how to get 200 listings a year. I'll do whatever you want me to do. But at night, you have to help me. I didn't even know where profit share money came from, and much less how do you figure out what a capper would be worth or a half capper. And so I needed all that. And so he helped me learn how to put the pro forma together. And then once I had an understanding of it, it was kind of a conviction that there's this opportunity.
So tell me your question. You asked him, you said, if I wanted to make $1 million in profit sharing, what would it look like?
I said, well, if I'm going to do anything, I want to try to do it big. So if I want to make $1 million, what would it look like? I'd actually asked this to him before I went up to see him. But I hadn't done anything but put it in my phone. And he said, you need to get 20 people, help 20, get 5,000 total. And I just put it in my Nokia phone at the time, flipped up. Every time my phone flipped up, I would see that and read it. But it was still a while later before I would actually do the pro forma. And sure enough, the pro forma came out exactly like his formula said it would for making $1 million. So once we did that, it was kind of convicted, and we just looked up and said, well, how would you go about building profit share? And honestly, we built profit share exactly the way we built our real estate business to 200 transactions. It's relationships. Who are the people you want to be a hero to?
So this is kind of a algebraic formula for success.
So if you take the capital letter R and you put a plus sign and then a capital V and then another plus sign and then another capital V,
then put it all over.
Then draw a line and put it over a capital T. That's the formula. So you have to decide, if I'm going to build my profit share, who do I enjoy helping? Who in the industry have I lived in such a way, experienced things, accomplished things that I could actually be of help to someone else? And that's how you kind of choose who, if you're going to build your profit share, who you would want to go build it with. Because I want to enjoy what I do. And if I got up every day and you said to me, Linda, you're going to need to go, get new people every day, it would suck my energy, because I don't enjoy helping new people. I enjoy helping people who are working themselves to death. They've hit a ceiling in their business. They are waking up and realizing they don't have enough leverage in their life, or they don't have enough wealth or passive income in their life. Those are the people I really like helping. And so I just try to fill my days with those kind of relationships, and I have to be valid. You have to be valid to whoever you pick. So let's say you pick 5 people. pick a couple above your production, a couple below your production, and a couple at your production, because you have the validity, which is the first capital V, because no one will open a door to a relationship with you until you have the validity. And so then once you have that validity and you start building that relationship, then what you got to do is step into what the next capital V is, and that's what is their value gap. And everybody has one.
And the key is their value.
Their value gap, not what I think it should be, not what mine is, not what mine was when I joined, but what is theirs? And you got to ask great questions to get that out of them. And so I always like to say my two favorite ways to start a conversation is a compliment, because nobody ever gets enough of them and nobody ever minds a new one. But here's the trick about it. It's got to be genuine and real. People see through crappy compliments that aren't real. So if you think long and hard enough, you can come up with an authentic compliment for someone. And so if I was calling Dana, I'd say, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Dana, this is Linda. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. Listen, hey, I just want to call and reach out to you and say thank you so much for the closing on 123 Main Street. Your responsiveness and always getting back with us and, picking up the phone and talking to us was so refreshing. And I just wanted to follow up and call you and tell you how much I appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Linda. Man, nobody ever does that. Thank you.
Well, it's so refreshing this day and time. And hey, while I have you on the phone, I love to ask other top agents kind of what's going on in their life with their business and their career. So while I have you, kind of what's COVID done for your business goals and your career this year? Are you on track? Are you off track? Or kind of what are some of your challenges?
Yeah, we've been really, really busy. And now it kind of starting to see a little bit of a slowdown, just a struggle getting listings.
Yes. Isn't that the theme of everybody right now? So
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Just as people are scared to put their houses on the market, and we got buyers willing to buy because the interest rates are so low.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you kind of on target for your goals this year, or you think you're going to miss them a little bit? I know for us, we were headed for the best year ever, and then COVID hit.
Yeah, very similar. This was going to be our best year ever. And I would say we'll do probably good to do the same that we did last year.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. At least you're not going to go backwards. Again, Dana, I just want to say thank you very much, and I appreciate you, and I hope you and I can do another deal someday.
Awesome.
And
yeah, me too.
the key things about this is I don't say the words KW, I don't say Keller Williams, because this is all about Dana. And I'm trying to figure out what are some of Dana's value gaps. So when I get off that telephone, I can think of things that I might be able to pass over to her that would start to fill those value gaps. Because those value gaps, when you fill them, they create this magical thing called beholdedness or reciprocity. And it's a magical force that wants people to give something back to you. And so if I do that long enough with Dana, and Dana builds that beholdedness, when I ask Dana to take a big step, like jump in on a Zoom call or go to mega camp through Zoom or go to family reunion or come to a training, she's going to be more inclined to say yes, because I have been dropping things into that value gap. And then people don't do what we tell them. Sellers don't sell, buyers don't buy, and agents don't join. So my goal is to get any of those people to self-discover that whatever they need, my service or my relationship or my company can actually fill that and do that for them. When she self-discovers that is when she will join. And that's when I'll build my profit share tree.
That's the time part.
And that's the time part. And the unfortunate part is I don't get to decide the time, she does. And here's the thing about validity. People get stuck on validity. Everybody has it and nobody thinks they do. So you're going to get stumbled on what you think your validity is. More than likely, you're going to think you don't have very much. And the truth is, if you really think about it, we all have something of value that we can give. We can help someone else. That's why you wouldn't pick somebody, if you're a brand new agent, you wouldn't pick somebody that's a $40 million producer, because you're going to have a lot harder time being valid to that person. So what creates validity? Our experiences, our successes, our failures, the books we've read, the training we've been to, our language that we use,
The people we hang around.
the relationships we have, the books that we can get in their hands, like that KW has written, becomes validity. So you just got to learn how to use all those things to become valid. And once you're valid, people will let you go deep in a relationship. They will not until you're valid to them. And so validity is very important, whether you're building your sales business or you're building your profit share, or even if you're building your portfolio of real estate. The relationships that we've built, you got to decide if you're going to buy investment properties, who are the people that are going to need, that have a value gap? Well, the distressed people, drug addicts, the divorced people, and death. Those 4 Ds cause people to have a value gap that we can step into and buy that investment property. So, I mean, it's kind of in a nutshell. And you know, the thing is, it doesn't matter where you start. It just matters that you are willing to make the commitment and start. Because if you will do a little thing, go out 15 years or 20 years and say, if I keep doing it exactly like what I'm doing it, what does my life look like? I think if we can stay connected to those pieces enough, you know, I think you're going to kind of make yourself be a little more accountable. Or maybe you could hold each other accountable, start a wealth building group and just say, look, we are going to hold each other accountable. We're going to give ourselves deadlines to find the first property. We're going to give ourselves a deadline to get the first relationship started for building our profit share.
And I would start where you feel the most comfortable.
Yeah.
For us, we started in like 1990 buying investment property. That was 3 years before we joined Keller Williams. So by the time we had joined Keller Williams, we already had, you know, 3 or 4 investment properties or 5 investment properties underneath our belt. And we're already well on that journey. And we looked at 3 ways to build wealth. Building wealth is relatively simple when you really look at it. You know, you either own businesses, you either do real estate, or you buy stock. Yep. One of the 3 things. And then if you're with Keller Williams, obviously profit share would be very much on the wealth building side.
And it can, if you treat it like a business, it can be a business. You know, on the stocks, the reason we didn't pick stocks is because we watched everybody in the late 80s lose everything they had because they were speculators, meaning they bought a good deal of property because of the appreciation it was going to do, or the good deal it was going to become, not the good deal it was that day. So we made a vow that if we weren't willing to learn enough about something, we would not be putting our money into it. We would strictly be investors, not speculators.
Real estate was a very, very logical thing. We understood real estate, especially residential real estate.
Yeah.
We understood it. It was relatively easy. You can figure a rate of return. You know how much money you're going to spend going in. You know what your worst case scenario is if something happens. You know, there's always you can always get out of it and sell it if you need to, because we're in the business. And so a lot of people that are outside of our industry don't get into real estate investing because they see it as something that's way too complicated. For us, you know, we're in the business, so it's relatively simple. So it was easy for us to go and make that our first journey into wealth building.
Dana, somebody had a question in the chat box and it said,
Yep.
Your first flip that you did that become your way that you got the money for investing?
I actually had that question.
Yeah, we did actually use the first $15,000 that we made off the first property and went and put it right into another property. But we didn't use flips as our way. Remember, we had 15% of all of our commission checks taken out. That was our strategy. I believe you're either eating, wearing, or driving the money you need. Everybody can get the money they need. They think that's their biggest issue. But worst case, you just go find a partner with the money and you use your knowledge to do it.
I promise you, if you took 15, maybe even 20% off the top of your income, you would naturally learn how to live off of 80 or 85% of what you bring in.
Yeah.
So how do you tell, okay, so a couple of questions, because people are texting me questions too. So how would you guys, well, first let me back up and say, one thing that I wrote down that I love learning from you guys all the time is you had a business plan for everything. You didn't just like wing it or go into it or say, I'm going to try this or I'm going to try that. You knew what the end game needed to be, and then you came up with the plan. And so you said, how can I make $1 million in profit share? And then you put the plan, you built the plan. How can we have 250,000 of passive income? And then you built the plan to have 50 houses. How can we sell 200 units on our team? And then you put the plan in place. So one, I think if anybody missed that, that's a big aha. They didn't just wing any of this stuff. They actually had a plan around the way that they were going to get there, number one. So I want to make sure I made
that same business plan, Dana, was the plan that we took to our banker. It was a 1-page deal. It wasn't a complicated, you know, notebook of a giant plan. It was a plan. And then you had to figure out what was your strategy on that plan on the front end. I was almost 40 years old when we bought our first investment property. And so if we wanted to have $250,000 coming to us passively by the time I was 60, that gave us 20 years to work with that. And so if we financed everything on a 15-year note and we put enough money down on those properties where they would cash flow on a 15-year note, that's how we were going to, you know, have it by the time that I was 60. And so if I'd have been 20 and figured this out, we'd have probably financed them on 30 years.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so the
that's actually
strategy on the
really
front end,
Yeah.
you know, dictates kind of, you know, which way you go on your wealth building strategy.
Yeah. If you're young enough,
So
you can.
Sherry just asked, sorry, go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, I said, so if you're young enough, you can do it on a longer term.
Our son, well, Press, he owns 3 investment properties.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's doing all of his on 30 years.
Yeah.
He's 27, 28 years old.
You know, one thing everybody might look at right now, Dana, is if you went to Keller Mortgage and refinanced your house, you might have an option to pull some money out there and get a much lower rate and pull some money out and go buy and put it in towards your down payment. That's the kind of things I would do.
Yep, that's a great point. So Sherry just asked a question that I actually had, and I've asked you guys this before, because Adam and I just had one that actually we're closing tomorrow, because I felt like, man, we couldn't pass up taking advantage of the market, even though we just bought it in October for what we're selling it for right now. We could go do 3 more. So she said, is there ever a good time to unload your properties during a seller's market and wait until a buyer's market to get back in the game again? And I'd be curious y'all's response to that too.
We didn't take the money and wait. We just kept, every market has good deals. And so I think you got to be careful, because how old are you, first of all? For the age we were, we needed a bunch in the bucket. And so if we'd have been continually selling them, you know what I mean? So I would say no, you keep buying all along. And now, have we gotten sold some of them during this hot market? Yes, but only because they were, you know, the more complicated, you know.
Yeah, we had some difficult properties that over time that we've held, that the maintenance costs were too high on them.
Yeah.
We weren't getting a great rate of return. But I think the answer to that question is maybe. And the reason I say that, if you have your money already earmarked for another investment that you're going into, I think that makes sense. Is that the problem that you get into, the problem we see with most investors, is they go sell it and the money gets consumed.
Yeah.
Right.
So then at the end of the day, you have nothing left for the time that you've built wealth and everything. And the one thing about building wealth is it takes time.
Yeah.
And so as you're building equity and you're building, you know, wealth through appreciation and everything, and holding these properties over time, that's where your real value is.
Yeah, I would have hated to seen if we'd have taken some of our early properties and been selling them every time the market went up. I don't think we would have the portfolio we have.
There's no doubt.
We would not
You
have.
know, right now in our residential portfolio, we've got a little over 80 properties locally down here in Texas, and we've had as many as 100, and we've sold off some of those that were problem properties and stuff. And because of our age now, it's kind of, we haven't really jumped back in to go and buy and to invest. We're investing more into businesses and things like that at this stage in our life.
Not that we will pass one up. If one comes along, we definitely do it. And we're probably doing a little more flipping
And I
now.
say that we're doing 3 right now. So,
Well, okay. I was going to say, wait a minute. How many are you doing right now? But I do want you to talk about flipping, because I do know, I mean, there can be some wealth in flipping, and a lot of people have that
cash flow. There's cash flow in flipping. There's not wealth.
Right.
and like I said, I've lost money flipping houses, Dana. I've never lost money investing long-term and holding. And so you got to take that in consideration. Whenever you're doing a lot of flips, you're going to have some good ones and you're going to have some that aren't so good.
Yeah.
So, and you're going to have some bad ones in there too. I've had some bad ones.
Yeah.
And so, and I feel like I know what I'm doing pretty well and still had bad ones.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think whenever you're flipping houses, you're creating cash flow. It's no different than you going out selling
another house.
And you're creating that kind of money. And so until you get it into the passive side, or you get streams of income coming from you for the passive side, it's just no more than cash flow, and depends on what you do with the money.
Yeah, and I think that's something, a very good point. People
That's
really
actually a great analogy.
selling. Yeah, you need to get that, because otherwise you're going to think you're building wealth and you're really not.
Well, just think, whenever you go out and sell a house, a seller is giving you 6% equity in their property. Whenever you go out there and you list the house for sale, how much risk do you have on that money?
Mm-hmm. No.
Your biggest risk is whether you sell it or you can't sell it.
Yep.
The seller's really taking all the risk and everything. You're not tying up a whole lot of your money other than your marketing fees and your time. And so whenever you're going out there and you're buying a property and you're closing it, you're flipping it, you know, you get into all kinds of unseen problems and stuff in the property you can, and you better have a really big margin in that to go make any money on the flip.
Yeah, and I think if you are going to flip, you need to have a hold strategy, a hold number that you're not going to violate, because that hold number is where the freedom's going to come from later. And then you can have some flip numbers or goals, but the flip is only to pour more into the hold.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, will you guys touch on the nightly rentals? Because a lot of people have interest in that.
We own nightly rentals up in Branson, Missouri. If anybody interested in log cabins and going to Branson, Missouri, we're the guys. Name of our website is bransonvacationretreats.com. And we have 21 properties up there now. We've got 3 houses on the lake, and the rest of them are log cabins that are inside of a little resort area. And we started out with that. You want to tell the story about how we got into it, Linda?
Well, actually, it's that big R, that relationships. Jim taught a class that we always teach for our local offices. We'll teach investing, and they can bring their investors. The agents can bring their investors. So Jimmy taught a class, and one of our agents brought her best friend, which was a stay-at-home mom. So then I teach for Robert Kiyosaki because Gary Keller didn't want to do it, and Jimmy McKissack was going fishing, so they weren't interested. And so I was the default to be on stage with Robert Kiyosaki.
Of course, she was raised.
I was beyond excited. So I did a breakout for him in Dallas, Texas, and this same stay-at-home mom came to my class, not knowing, neither one of us knew she was ever in our class. And then 8 months later, we saw her at our kids' football game because our kids were in the same class at Liberty Christian and nobody knew it. She comes up to us and said, I bought like 8 properties or whatever. It was like this unbelievable number during the short sale time frame. And we're like, wow, this girl's sharp. So I said, well, hey, let's you and I start meeting on a regular basis. Because remember, the other people that you want to bring into your life that's going to make a big difference is the relationships you're valid enough to get in relationship with. So I said, hey, let's you and I go to Barnes & Noble's once a month, have a cup of coffee. Let's hold each other accountable to keep buying and building wealth. She said, sure, I'd love to. So we start meeting on a regular basis. All she does is talk about these cabins up in Branson, Missouri. And I'm like, oh, Lord, okay, whatever, good deal. And then towards the end, she says, hey, I've short sold 2 cabins and I can only afford to buy 1. Do y'all want to buy 1? So we got in the car on the iciest day of the year the next day and drove what would normally take us 7 hours, 14 hours to get to these cabins. That should have ruined us right there, but it didn't. And instead we fell in love with these cabins, and the snow was there and it's beautiful. And so that put us on our journey to start buying those cabins, and now they're one of the best things. So we went into
the subdivision up there that actually filed bankruptcy, the subdivision, and we went to the bank there and found out that they had some lots and stuff that weren't sold and stuff that they need to get rid of, and the lots up there were normally selling for $60,000 a lot. We bought all 3 of the lots that were left for $100,000, and then we went and built cabins on those, and we partnered with our partner on those things for a while, and we never intended to stay partners forever. And so we got into the partnership and worked our way around on it. She kind of managed the properties for us. And one thing we saw with the nightly rentals is that management is kind of the key to nightly rentals. Right. I mean, if you're just going to do 1 or so, and say you want a house in Vail or whatever, typically on a vacation rental like that, the management fee is going to be anywhere from 25 to 40% on the management side. So typically people buy those kind of properties to have a place to go to every now and then cover some of their expenses through renting them out. But they never really make money on it. There's usually an expense at the end of the year. They usually don't cash flow. And so when you're doing nightly rentals, you got to be really concerned about the management and about the costs and the fees. And there's lots of moving parts in the nightly rental business, from the cleaning people to the on-site managers if you have enough properties. So what Linda and I found out after owning about 12 or 14 of these is that we needed to form our own management company. And the problem was that if we did it with that many cabins, we were going to be forming a company that's going to lose money because we hadn't reached critical mass, and it's hard to make that with just 14 properties. And so we're just now at the point to where we're getting to critical mass, and our management company is starting to make money out of it. We're adding 12 more properties. We just bought 2 cabins up there that we're in the process of closing this month up there. And then we're building 12 brand new cabins up there. So we're going to be up to about 33 or 34 cabins. And And, that makes the deal work really well.
Mm-hmm.
But a
Yeah.
lot of people, if they found a location where they actually want to eventually wind up, some people are buying those for vacation rentals and they rent them out when they're not there so they can actually help pay for them. And that's not, I mean, if you want a second home, but that's not really investing in building wealth necessarily. It's more of what you want as a second
Now
home.
in Texas down here, we bought a little ranch, a little 27-acre ranch. It's got 2 houses on it. I kind of fell in love with, and it's kind of my go out to. And so, of course, my entrepreneurial wife, she wanted to figure out, it was cost us money every month. It's $10,000 or $12,000 a month just to keep that deal up. And so she wanted to figure out a way to pay for it. Now I can't get into my ranch anymore. The house is totally booked. The other house is totally booked. I can go out there and look at it a little bit, but I got to be careful that we don't have people there when I'm there. So it, just a crazy deal, but it's making money.
You can find another one.
Well, the margins are really good. The margins are really good in nightly rentals.
Yeah.
If you really do them correctly and you have the management under the right control and you have a good source of bringing business into that area and stuff. Our websites, and of course we use VRBO and HomeAway and Airbnb. Those sites, they're kind of expensive and stuff, but over time, but they bring in some good people and stuff. And it's really been kind of fun up in Branson because it's all families that go up there and stuff and stay in our cabins. And we have our guest book in there and they talk about the memories they've made at the cabins and stuff. And so it feels really good to be doing that, providing that type of a property at a fair price.
Yeah. So we had one more question, and then I want to open it up and see if anybody else has questions too. Actually, let's see what Karen. So would you recommend Airbnb, and what were the others? You obviously VRBO.
And HomeAway.
And HomeAway.
They're kind of the same now.
Yeah.
VRBO and HomeAway.
Yeah, and we kind of had to do an Airbnb. We didn't do them for a long time because they weren't there, but yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, Karen, it depends on location too. Like some places are much bigger, heavier in VRBO than they are in Airbnb. You kind of just have to do a little bit of research around it.
And you're constantly trying to get them to go to your website too. We're constantly trying to drive them away from that stuff. It doesn't, we don't really necessarily save a ton of money, do we?
No, it's
but they
cheap.
do.
The consumer pays more if they go directly to our website and book versus booking through, Airbnb or HomeAway.
They pay more with us, or
no, they pay less.
They pay less with us.
Y'all, yeah. Okay, so what would be, Adam asked the question, what would be 1 or 2 tips you'd give for people teaching their kids about wealth?
One of the best things we ever did was that cash flow quadrant game. I'll never forget one day, if you can imagine Press as a little boy, we were driving by and there's this huge, playhouse thing out in this, how they set them out on the side of the road so all the kids can see when they go by.
And to buy them.
And Press is like, pull over, go over there, go over there, go over there. And he wanted one of them. And I said, well, Press, let me ask you a question. Would that be an asset or a liability? And he goes, oh no, that'd be a liability. And I said, well, why would it be a liability? And he said, because it wouldn't make me any money. So that game is what helped him learn that. So I would get Total Money Makeover. I haven't looked at the Total Money Makeover. I bought it for my grandkids recently, but I would get any kind of games and things like that you can. And because remember, you only have their minds and stuff for so long. The world starts grabbing it. YouTube now is like that little. Amelia watches this My Diane show. Well, every time Diane has an emotion, they give her a new toy, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. So, but she loves it, and it's like what she has to watch a little bit every day.
And the stuff you can put in their hands and stuff at an early age that they can learn from, even a piggy bank.
Yes, and make them work. I don't care how young they are. The biggest mistake we made is Jim and I both had to go to work as kids because we had family situations that really were in bad situations. And so we didn't want that for our kids. And that was a big mistake. We should have put them to work.
We want our kids to always have a better life than we had. And
yeah, big mistake.
In a way, we've kind of robbed them from really seeing what life's really about and learning about money and stuff.
Well, and work teaches you so much. It teaches you how to deal with complicated people. It teaches you the value of a dollar. You know, there's so many things. So please don't try to make your kids' lives easy, and get them all the true education about money as early as you
Remember, they're
possibly
not going
can.
to get that at all in high school.
No.
And so what they're going to get going through high school is going to come from you. And so
Mhm.
putting them out and letting them work in the real world during high school, we always blame even with Press, you know, he was busy with sports and playing basketball and doing all this stuff. And so we made excuses of why he couldn't work. You know, Bailey was always in the gym, you know, with gymnastics and stuff, and wasn't, you know, we made excuses for her working. But the best lessons they could learn is to get some kind of a foundation through their high school years going into college, and even working some while they're in college also.
There's a great book.
Yeah.
It's out of print now, but you can find it. It's called 3 Steps to a Strong Family. It's by Richard and Linda Ayre, A-Y-R-E. They're a Mormon family out of Utah. And we actually ran into them on a plane flying to Lake Powell one time. But anyway, it's just really good. It teaches you how to set up family law, family finance. And she has some of the funniest stories in there about how each of their kids manage the money. She said, I had to learn to not put them in charge of their own underwear, because I have one kid that would just never have any underwear if he had to buy it himself. So they're just cute stories, and it's really a great book that kind of gives you some foundational pieces.
And in November, Linda and I are doing a Mimi Pop camp.
Yeah.
And we're doing it for our grandkids, and they're coming to
Love
our
it.
house and going to spend a week with us, and we're going to just do things to teach them and let them learn and stuff for that week, built around money and those types of things.
Don't forget you got t-shirts to wear for that too.
Yes, I'm so excited about that. Thank you, Dana.
Um,
Excited.
Mimi Pop camp.
I love it. I know, that's such a great idea. So guys, also Heather is being so gracious and posting all these links in the chat. So if you want to go find the books that they've talked about, they're all posted in the chat. And then one thing I remember, I think you guys said maybe Gary taught you all this, was you paid your kids to read books. Because Adam, the Who Moved My Cheese and Go Giver and a couple of those other really good ones, right?
There's a great one. It's called
Dream Giver.
Dream Giver by Jeff Wilkinson.
I was trying to think of.
I
Dream
love
Giver.
that one. I love it as a parable. You put it in your car on audio. It's just a great. And then there's a great set of audio tapes out of Colorado called Focus on the Family. And I gave those to my kids, and then I would give them to other agents in my office, let their kids use them too. They just teach them different, just values and different stuff.
Yeah, that's a great gift. Okay, so a couple more questions in the chat. So one is, just to be clear, so would you recommend nightly rentals over long-term rentals? Or clarify a little bit on that, Jimmy.
I wouldn't say
I would
over.
probably,
Not over.
yeah, I mean, whatever's simpler for you. I think that the nightly rentals has a whole lot of things that have to happen and stuff. The management for a nightly
They're not as
rental
passive.
is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of hands-on things that happen there, and a lot of guests, immediate contact, 24/7.
We went through that. They get there and
I would start building wealth where you feel the most comfortable and it's
Easiest.
as easiest for you.
Next natural step for you.
that's a great point. Yeah, I knew as soon as they got there and couldn't get the TV turned on that wasn't going to be a job, but that was going to be for me.
Just on putting that management company together, we probably spent a couple $100,000 before it ever got profitable.
Wow. Okay.
So, I mean, that was a long-term strategy on that deal.
Tommy had a great question. Do you set up a separate business per state to manage the properties? Like
We have LLCs for all of our businesses. We have one up there up in Branson to do the nightly rentals and stuff up there. And then down here where we have 80 something properties, we've got that set up into 8 different LLCs. We keep them somewhere between 8 and 10 properties per LLC.
Okay. And then someone actually messaged me privately and asked about the clarifying of the 15%. This is not a question for me to answer, maybe not for y'all, but did your company take it out and put it in the money market account for you?
Well, remember in Texas, Keller Williams philosophy, and Keller Williams philosophies everywhere is you should get paid at the closing table, but some states won't allow that, but Texas allowed it. So because we were the first to do that, we just said to our title rep,
Yeah.
cut a separate check for 15% of it straight to AG Edwards account so that we
Got
don't
it.
have to touch it.
So at the title company, there would be a check going to Keller Williams for their share, a check going to the McKissack Group for their share of the commission, and a check going to AG Edwards for the 15%. And the title company would make out all those and disperse the funds for us.
So whatever way you got to do it, there's got to be a way you can set it up and do it.
But the
And
key word for us was automatic.
I'm telling you that made all the difference. And I kept reading it in books and I'm like, I don't know what
I mean, we'd just blink our eyes and all of a sudden there'd be 20 or 25 or $30,000 in that account. And we didn't even realize that we didn't miss that money.
That's why I'm saying if you put a group together and you guys make it a kind of a game to each other to see how much money you can put away. I did this with my ALC a few years ago, and I just wanted to see because they kept using the excuse they didn't have the money. And I thought every time we'd think to go out to eat, I'd say, nope, we're going to put that money in a separate account. Or if I wanted a new pair of shoes, I'd say, nope, I'm not going to buy those new shoes. I'm going to put that. And before I knew it, I had enough to pay off our very lowest house that we owed against. Jimmy didn't even know I had done that.
Did you know that Gary Keller in the beginning with Keller Williams, they lived off of 30% of his income?
And saved 70.
70% to build Keller Williams.
Wow.
He also drove his was a little nicer than mine, but his was a Volkswagen. Mine was a Pinto.
Yeah, I've heard him tell that story before. The thing is, Jimmy, you said it. It takes time and commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be committed. What was the kids' game? One more time.
Cash flow quadrant for kids.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Good one.
It's a Kentucky game.
Any last questions, or does anybody want to unmute and ask a question? You're more than welcome to. Let's see. You mentioned 15% saved in commission in a money market. Correct. So really, I guess you kind of already touched on that, but on the money market, I mean, that you just put it in there.
It was just in a separate account that that was separate from all of our other money.
It was our investment savings account.
Yeah.
So
And use that money strictly, it was earmarked for buying real estate.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. Okay, I'll ask one last question. Got it. Thanks. Okay, I'll ask one last question because we're about to run out of time. We got 2 minutes. So what would be the one piece of advice you'd give people if we do go into a downturn market right now?
Save money. Do intermittent fasting so you don't spend so much money on food. Don't buy shoes. Don't buy cars. Don't buy anything. Put money away. There's over 11 million in it, Dana, that have not made their payment. Yeah. So there's going to be good deals. Please be ready for those. Yeah, please.
And like I said, Linda, cash is king.
Yeah.
And so save up your money and everything right now. Be in a position when the market gives you the opportunity to take advantage of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Any retirement vehicles you would recommend, like IRAs, 401ks?
We've never done a whole lot of that. Our team leader in Firemound, they use their money to buy investment properties. So I guess it's a good thing. We just wouldn't be the experts on it.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Can Jimmy tell us the checks that were cut at the closing table again? Okay, so I'll find out, y'all, for Kentucky and Ohio. It's different in every single state. So in some states, they can give you your commissions at the closing table. So we'll find more information on that.
Yeah, 15% went to the savings account to buy investment properties. The remainder went to the McKissack Group, and KW's money went off the top.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Man, this was helpful. I actually have had the privilege of hearing this multiple times, and I still took 2 pages of notes. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate
our pleasure. We want to hear the way you repay us is we want to hear the success stories. We want to hear the wealth that's getting built. We want to hear that you're committed and you're holding each other accountable.
And guys, Linda and I are very, very average people. If we can go out and create this kind of income, surely you can too.
Yes. And we're always happy to help. So if you guys need another revisit after a while, you just let us know. We're here to help any way we can.
And also, FYI, Linda and I decided we had this great idea last night. Actually, I think Tyler or Kate had the idea, but if you want to replay this for someone in your family or someone that you care about, we're recording it to post it on our podcast. It'll drop next Tuesday morning. So go subscribe to Everything Life in Real Estate if you don't already. I know so many of you do, but you can share it that way also. So thank you guys. Love y'all.
Thank you.
Love you guys. See ya. Want to hear the stories.
Be safe.
Okay. Have a great day. Thank you guys for being on. Have a great rest of your day.